And this is why I sense that any necessary reforms will be very, very difficult to push through, even if there is some sort of ability to overcome the ideological underpinnings.
What to make of the latest State of the Nation address delivered by President Ramaphosa? What do we make of his presidency at this point in time, and also in the context of heading towards a general election in 2024? Joining me to unpack these issues is Terence Corrigan, the project manager at the Institute of Race Relations. Terence, thanks very much for spending some time with me today. To start off with, is there one word that you would use to describe the latest Sona from President Ramaphosa?
Schizophrenic. I think that it embodied so many contradictions that characterizes governance in South Africa. Think about this. You had a lot of discussion of load shedding, of electricity. But the way it was phrased, and this is sort of a linguistic thing, and I saw the same thing in a piece that was run by News 24, attributed to the president. It seemed as though he was speaking as though he was a bystander looking on. Things must be done. Things have happened. Passive voice. I used to my younger days to be an English teacher, so I noticed when we started to talk about solutions, it became active voice. You see the point here. It's almost as though there was a reluctance to take any ownership or responsibility. There was this call for cooperation and partnership. But I would argue that the largest single block to that sort of partnership is the incapacity and the behavior of the state itself. There was a lot of talk about doing things differently, but then at the same time saying we're not here to announce new policies. It's sort of we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do the same things we were doing. We're just going to do them differently. There seemed to be a lot more continuity than change. And I think, unfortunately, what we have is an environment in which we would rather see change than continuity.
Do you think there's an element of maybe don't rock the boat too much, unity above all? And it's, I guess, if you think of a pendulum, you can't swing too far one way or the other. Otherwise, the whole thing, because it's a rickety structure that is the ANC, it might just fall apart. All the vested interests, all the power groups, all the power bases. Yeah, I think... I mean, we often refer to ideology and that sort of thing, the National Democratic Revolution. I don't think you can discount that sort of stuff. But at this point in time, isn't there an argument to be made for it's just trying to assuage as many interest groups as possible?
Yeah, look, I think that this is a crisis that's been in the making since the early 1990s. There've been some moments when very bad choices were made. I think the seminal one was in about 1996, 97, when the ANC made a conscious decision to politicize the civil service rather than having a professional, non-partisan civil service. And I think increasingly over the Zuma years, it became absolutely pathological in this sense that it became something of a patronage machine. In fact, I think for many around the ANC, not just amongst its membership, but there's interest groups that have been feeding off this, and I think that the president made some interesting remarks. Although, let me say, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but symbolically, he was saying, for instance, people ask me why I do this, and I would say maybe the question is, what are you doing? Whom are you leading? Is it are you the president of the state, or the president of the ruling party? Now, technically, is some combination, but I would say that the starting point has increasingly become, and I think this was a trend that was established with the defenestration of Thabo Mbeki, that the state is very much the tool and plaything of the ruling party. And this is why I sense that any necessary reforms will be very, very difficult to push through, even if there is some sort of ability to overcome the ideological underpinnings. I mean, if we talk about procurement, for instance, now empowerment localization policies push up push up costs. One would think that particularly with regard to something like coal or diesel acquisition for Eskom, that's something that we just can't afford at the moment. I'd be very, very surprised to see those things being dispensed with, because there are people within the ruling party's orbit who have benefited very handsomely from them. Don't underestimate also what the impact of having to fund an election in 18 months is going to do. All in all, this is not a happy, or dare I say, risk-free environment.
Speaking of those risks, and we could spend hours unpacking the whole Sona, but I thought let's hone in on one specific point, which is the declaration of a state of disaster around electricity, and also the announcement that there will be a new minister of electricity.
I will appoint a minister of electricity
to be housed in the office of the presidency. So any thoughts on the state of disaster? And people have spoken about this before it was implemented and the potential risks, but I thought we should also get your perspective on, number one, if you think it's the right sort of avenue to resolve the electricity crisis, but number two, if not, what are the potential downsides of it?
Okay. No, I don't think that it really offers anything. Nor do I believe that this is what the kind of crisis for which this legislation is designed. Now, the COVID state of disaster was a controversial thing, but I think it was at least conceptually defensible that you had an immediate public health crisis, or a looming public health crisis. Time was of the essence. The ability to control people's movement was rationally connected to that. Now, we don't have to get into whether that was a good choice, and I think that there's much to be said to the contrary. But I don't know what can be done with the state of disaster of what is essentially a failure of governance and political choices going back to the 1990s, that cannot be done through ordinary legislation, ordinary regulation, ordinary administrative action. For instance, the president said something about it'll make it easier for us to lift certain regulations. Well, the minister has a great deal of authority to do this already, and if these regulations are indeed bottlenecks to the supply of power, which is foundational to a modern society, then what are they doing on the statute books in the first place? And where I think the risk comes in is that this is not going to be about locking people in their homes or anything like that. But I think it will, let's say, ensure the circulation of vast amounts of money with, shall we say, less restrictive controls to purchase power from other sources, to purchase coal, to purchase diesel, perhaps to issue instructions, etc., etc. And once again, I say, do not underestimate what the impact of a bankrupt ruling party going into an election could be on these decisions, or how they might influence how these funds are allocated and spent. Now, the Ministry of Electricity, once again, I think that there's a certain reversion to form, if I can put it that way. We're not quite sure what to do, so let's do this. It just seems to me to be completely performative. The rationale, as was explained last night, was that this is about having someone who can focus on this full time, and he's going to be in the office of the president. Wow, is he close to the big guy? Well, first of all, it was pointed out that Eskom would remain with the Department of Public Enterprises. So you're not talking about putting everything into some sort of electricity czar's hands. Secondly, both formally within the state and informally within the ANC and its orbit, there are so many interest groups to be appeased that I don't think that having a new political head does anything to really make the process more efficient. We've been talking also for 20 years about joined up government, and these things just I don't know if they can work, but they certainly don't in South Africa. Government tends to operate in silos, and something like this is I hate this phrase, but a cross-cutting issue. You're going to have to deal with a lot of people, and the other thing is that for reasons of party unity, I don't see President Ramaphosa stepping on anyone's toes. He didn't do it with. You can ask former Finance Minister Mboweni. You know, he got no support from Ramaphosa, and I think it may have made a difference back then. I don't think it does now. President Ramaphosa has to keep a fractious party together, and you know, if his electricity minister is seen to be stepping on toes, I don't think that's going to that is something that he's going to want to be associated with.
Thank you very much for watching. Please remember before you leave to like this video and also subscribe to our YouTube channel if you have not yet done so. As a final request, please leave in the comments below your thoughts on President Ramaphosa's latest State of the Nation address. What do you think is the real state of South Africa? Until next time, this has been Chris Hattingh for the Center for Risk Analysis. Take care.